18-year-old Nodirbek Abdusattorov beats world champion Magnus Carlsen in classical chess for the first time ever. Amazing. And this happened in the fifth round of the Tata Steel Masters. Before we get to the game and I show you what happened, I want to show you a video clip. And I want to get your thoughts on it. Maybe you can think about it while we analyze the game and then we'll discuss it. So this is the video clip. This is at the end of the game. Both the players are arranging their pieces. Magnus has already lost the game. You can see both of them arranging. And now look what happens. Well done. Something he said, good game or well done. Let's just back up. What did Magnus say? I was just trying to. Okay, well done, good game. And Nodirbek shakes his head. Now, think about it this way. Okay. Here is the world champion, one of the greatest in the world. I mean, ever in the history of chess. The last time he lost two back-to-back games in classical chess was in 2015 at the Norway chess when he lost to Topalov in round 1 and Caruana in round 2. It's 7.5 years since then. And now this is, again, he lost two games in a row. He lost to Anish Giri yesterday, before the rest day, and now to Nodirbek. And yet, after that, he arranges the pieces and has that emotions within him to smile and congratulate his opponent. What does that say? Does that mean that Magnus Carlsen no longer feels that pinch of loss? Does that mean that he has become very, very calm and peaceful in his life? I don't know. I will leave it up to you to think about it while we go to the game and discuss about what happened there. And also, I wanted to just show you a couple of pictures from where this was happening, because Tata Steel has this thing called chess on tour. And so they take this one round, and they did this at the Johan Cruyff stadium, football stadium, which is, I think, home stadium of Ajax football club. Forgive me if I'm wrong there. I'm not a big football fan, but this is how it looked. It was beautiful. Like, you have 7 boards laid out, fans on both sides with big screens. Amazing setup. And also a very nice picture before the game here at the football ground that was taken. And yeah, there are more pictures, but more of that at the end of the game. Let's begin. Magnus, with the white pieces here, opens the game with 1c4. Okay. Nodirbek said he did not expect this move as much as some other moves, but he went c5. Knight went to f3 here. And now Nodirbek responded back with the move knight f6, knight c3, knight c6, 4 knights, and e3 played. Here, there are many ways to play. One is e6, d4, d5. We have the Tarrasch normal position, but Nodirbek went e5. Interesting move, combative move, and generally white goes d4. And we get this interesting situation. These are some nice complex positions to look at, but Magnus decided not to sort of go into a fight. He goes bishop e2 first, calmly playing it. Nodirbek went d5, takes, knight takes, castles, and bishop e7. Magnus now plays his bishop to b5. So he moves his bishop again, but now creates a concrete threat of taking this pawn. And if you were to play f6, then suddenly d4 becomes quite strong because you are hitting the center, and f6 is not so great. So this is something that Magnus had already played against MVL before. Now, you want to defend this pawn. As you saw, f6 is not so good. You want to play queen c7, but then you lose your knight. So Nodirbek said, let me take on c3 first. Okay. Magnus took back in the correct way, b takes c3. The last time he played this position, he took d takes c3. This was against MVL at World Blitz Championship 2017. And the game continued this way. It ended in a draw. So Magnus rightly takes b takes c3. And now queen c7 by Nodirbek. He's ready that if you take here to get the doubled pawns, because he has a very powerful bishop that could come on this diagonal and so on. but he went d4. Again, a good move. Takes. And now here, by the way, e4 would be not a good idea because knight d2 and bishop a4, bishop c2. This pawn is just too weak and white would be clearly better. But cd, ed, knight d4, bishop d7 played. And now I think at this point, it was a moment where Magnus could have played better. There are few good moves here. One is queen c2, putting more pressure on this file on c6. The other one is to play a4 and next put the bishop on b2. The reason why you play a4 is that knight d4, you don't need to worry about your bishop now. Queen d4 can be taken directly. Bishop b5 is not hanging. So I guess a4 was an interesting option. But Magnus now, and also bishop b2 I think is the most natural move, but this is where Magnus might not have liked it. Knight d4. If you take with the queen, b5 is hanging here, so you must take the bishop. Takes, queen takes, and it's very equal after castle. So Magnus said, let me retain some pieces, knight f3. But as Nodirbek said in his post-game interview, this felt wrong. This did not feel right because you are releasing the tension. You're bringing your piece back. And yes, if black castles, Magnus's hope was that he would put his bishop here and he would try to press with more pieces on the board. Even that is equal. But Nodirbek said, look, Magnus, you moved your knight. Now I'm attacking your rook. So if you play rook b1, I'm happy to castle. Now my bishop has this strong diagonal. Turns out that perhaps this is not so bad and white can still play on. And this is an interesting position. But Magnus was in big fighting mood. He went bishop a3. And I think this is what makes the game very interesting. Also shows that Magnus is not here for any short solid draws or anything. He wants to fight. He prevents black from castling short and gives up an exchange. Queen takes. And he says, I have compensation. This is actually a very good understanding of the position by Magnus. And I was thinking to myself that should black, black of course can't castle short, but can castle long. But what's the hurry? My g7 pawn is hanging. Why don't I play f6 and prevent him from taking my g7 pawn? And next move I will long castle. To which I realized that time is also very critical here, because if you give one extra move to white, he starts putting pressure, and here comes a very nice move, bishop e2. And the idea is to come to b5 and d6 that way. And if you play something like a6 here, then I go bishop f3, putting pressure there, g3, king g2, and I'm somehow, it just feels that white is doing okay here. Not so sure, but in the game what he did was like he long castled, and now if rook c1 that was played in the game, king b8, now if you do the same stuff, here black has an extra move because he did not waste it on playing f6. And here queen a5 just gives black an advantage because now b5 under pressure, d4 I am planning to take, a3 is hanging. So it's these little things which can make a huge difference. Okay, let's go back. Magnus said, well, you did not defend your g7 pawn, let me pick it up. So he takes it. Now Nodirbek takes here. And I think this is where Magnus makes the first small inaccuracy in the game. Okay, firstly, a very small question to you. What happens here? Why can't you take this pawn? Of course, you would definitely see this rook g2, king g2, check, and the queen is hanging. Okay, so that is not working. But I think queen at 7 would have been nice. And maybe it's not so simple for black to do something immediate. And I think Magnus should have taken that pawn. Then he would have 2 pawns and then good compensation. But he went queen b2. And here's your first question, sort of the main question here. Nodirbek found a great move here, black to play. So the move that was played by Nodirbek, and if you are able to find it, kudos to you. Bishop g4, like too good move. It's very active. It hits the knight. It threatens to take here and attack this. Okay, so my next question to you. if he takes on c6. Why is this a bad move? Black to play. Yes, I hope you spotted the back rank weakness. Queen takes c6. You can't take because of rook d1 mate. So that's the reason why you can't take here. Okay, get it. What about knight d4? Why is this not good? Well, try to think. Black to play. Yes, the right move here is knight takes d4. Fantastic. And if you take ed here, then which is what Nodirbek thought is the best way to play. Queen f4 looks very strong. And black is better here. But this could have been the best way for white to continue perhaps there. Because Nodirbek saw here after ed4, queen b6, bishop c5, queen h6, and he thought white is doing well. Queen f4 is strong. Okay, what if white takes the rook? Your question. What should black play? Yes, very important move. Knight f3 check. And it's just lost. Do it, whatever rook d1 is coming in, and it's game over. Like gf3, I can go rook d1. Check. King g2. And now just somewhere move the bishop and it's mate. There's no way to stop mate. So that was a nice variation with knight d4. He played knight e1. And now your next question, what should Nodirbek do here? So went ahead in material, try to exchange pieces. That is what he did. He went rook to d1. Nice little move. Because after take more pieces that have been traded. If you try to attack on d1 and h7, that does not work because of a nice move here, which is queen a5 hitting b5 and e1. So there's no time to take. Okay, so bishop f1 was played here by Magnus, defending well. Black went knight e5, h3, and now he played a mistake here. Nodirbek went bishop f3. There were other moves which he could have done, like king a8 seemed logical. There were many little moves that he can play, but he decided to play bishop f3, and here Magnus had a very nice move. Try to think, it's a tough one. White to play. What would you do here? The move here was queen to b1. Fantastic move. Attacks h7 pawn. Very strong. And if f6 here, I have queen b3. Now the problem is I attack your rook, and the moment you save your rook, my queen enters and I'm threatening here bishop d6. The other option is to play rook g6, but then I have queen f5, and you will see that queen b1 works brilliantly here, and this should have been done by Magnus. But after bishop f3, he went queen d4. This allowed rook d8, good move. Queen h4, bishop d5, bringing the bishop back, attacking a2 pawn here. Okay, queen takes h7, and instead of taking the a2 pawn, he went bishop c4. And his point is, if you were to take here, then I'll take with the knight, I'll hit your bishop doesn't have great squares, my rook is ready to come in, and that would be better for black. But he went bishop b2. Good move by Magnus. Bishop f1, king f1, in came a check, king has to go back, and now protected his knight on e5 with knight c6. Knight came to f3, he chopped the pawn, bishop f6, and rook d1 check because the rook was attacked, and here Nodirbek played the move a5. I really liked how this game shaped up, because in spite of material disadvantage for white, it's not really a battle of material anymore. It's a battle of who can queen their pawn first. This pawn is coming down this way, and white has to use his trump card, which is the h pawn. And so Magnus could have gone h4 here and started using that trump card, even giving up a pawn, queen e4, threatening h5, h6. I mean, this bishop controls a1, which could be a big thing at the end. But he went knight d4, and here, okay, queen f2 does not work because I can take, give a check, and then pick up this pawn, and then it's just a draw. So Nodirbek, in order to keep the game going, went queen d5. And now queen g7 would have been nice. a4, h4. If a3, queen f8. If you play a3, I can go queen f8 check and chop this pawn off. So not a3, but king a7, knight c6, bc6, queen g4, queen d6 check, g3, a3, and well, queen a4 check, and the position remains equal. So somehow Magnus had to be more accurate. He was playing little inaccurate moves like queen c2, queen d6 check, f4. By the way, if you play g3, then queen takes f6 and then f2 falls with a check. So that wouldn't be good. So he played f4, and now your move, what should black play? So Carlsen's idea was, if you take here, then I want to take on first on c6, not queen d1, but first take here. Maybe he takes with the queen and then queen d1, and this should be a draw. Should be fine. So Nodirbek finds a great move, which is like take on d4 with the rook. And this makes a lot of sense because after take, check, we reach this position. And this is move 37. And Magnus should hold this. And he finds a great move here, h4, because he has to put his money on the h pawn. a4. And now again a great move by Magnus on move 39, queen a2. Attacking f7, and if putting a4 under pressure. f5, h5, another good move. 40 moves are up, queen h8. And now it's 41st move. He has 50 minutes on the clock. Here I felt Magnus should have just taken his time, but he played his next move very quickly, and it was not the most accurate. What should you play here as white? Try to think. Actually, this is not simple, but it's a great way to play. So Magnus took here, which is not a good move, because after this we will come to the game. Queen f7 was really strong, and well done if you found this. So a3, queen takes f5, queen b2 check, king h3, a2. And you might feel like black is really very powerful, but here there is a perpetual somehow. You can't stop anyhow. Like here, check, 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 check. You can't get rid of it. And if you go to a6 here, still the perpetuals keep continuing. It's not any different. It's also a draw. So queen h8 check. Queen h8. He should have played queen f7, but he went here, king g1, queen f3. And now once again Magnus had to be careful here. He had to play the move queen e8 check, king here and king h2. Let's say something like queen d3, queen e7, queen d2, king h here, queen h6, king g2, queen c6, king f2. Should be a draw. But he just played king h2, and this allowed Nodirbek something very nice. Check, king g1. Again, king h3. Why not go ahead? You know, it's just so much better to keep the king more active. Yes, here black has great chances to press on for a win. But still, I mean, what is the point of keeping your king on g1 here when it could potentially reach this point and create counterplay? So king g1, I would say small inaccuracy there. And now black to play. What was the great move Nodirbek played here? I really loved this move. I think this was the best move in this endgame. What a queen. What a queen. It's just so powerful. So powerful on e5. King f2. And what should black play here now? Very simple move. Straightforward. Yes. b5. Just put your pawn here. No checks. If he goes queen a6, king c7, king f3, check. b4. Black is winning here. So queen b4. I tried to study this endgame a bit, whether it's drawn or not. And I have come to some conclusions which I want to share with you. King b7, good move. g4, fg, queen g4. And I think an important position to just think about. White is winning, but I want to explain to you why. And I want to tell you why this queen is so important. Firstly, it cuts the king off on the e file. Now, black has two scenarios where he should be able to hold this endgame. One is if his king is in front of this pawn somewhere here. on these squares. It's a draw. White king there. The other one is if the white king is somewhere in this zone, far away from the pawn. But somehow this is the worst place to be in. And also, this queen is so good. And here Nodirbek finds another good move, queen king b6. So, if queen d5, there are two moves that draw now, and both are very typical strategies to draw for white. Can you find them? Yes, if you play queen g6, this is a draw. Now you cut his king off, and for him to make progress becomes very tough. Like before king e3. The other way to draw here is to play king e2, and this position again is a draw because the king is closer to the pawn. Then it was just one file makes a huge difference. Another question very quickly is if he plays king c7, what's the drawing move now? Yes, you know it. Queen g6. Just a draw. And this point I just wanted to explain by just a few random moves to show this point, that if the king somehow magically could reach here, again this position is a draw. It's not easy for black to win, and the reason is the following. Why? That in variations where you will start checking like this and this, I'll show you one exact position. Black queen will come in between and give a counter check because the king is here. But imagine the king was here, that would not have happened. So that's why it's helpful to put either the king very far away, or the king should help in the defense of the pawn in such a way that if the queens are traded, pawn endgame is drawn. Queen g8, p4, and you will see the ease with which Nodirbek wins. Pushes the pawn, pushes the king. Check here because he cannot push the pawn yet. Now he can. Pushes the pawn, brings the king, brings the king, brings the king. And now here, check, king here, check. And one example of where it loses is this one. You give a check, I give block, and I give a counter check and trade the queens. That's why king is badly placed. King at queen h8, check, b2, and he resigned here. Here, king f3, whatever you do, king c1, check, check, queen trade. If you go king g2, again, check and draw. So yeah, that was how it was. A very, very difficult game for Magnus, I would say. He is not being able to show his best chess here. He's lost 2 back-to-back games, but he's a champion, and everyone's waiting for him to make a comeback here in this event for now. But it's amazing how this 18-year-old young Uzbek talent Nodirbek is leading this super tournament with 4 out of 5. Anish is on sole second with 3.5, and Prag is on 3, Caruana on 3, Levon on 3, who beat Vincent. Arjun is on 2.5, Wesley so 2.5, and Gukesh is on 1.5 points. This couple of pictures here is Nodirbek's, after winning. Very beautiful picture by Lennart Utes. All these pictures are by him. I absolutely admire him as a photographer. What beautiful pictures. Vishy Anand was present there as a guest, and also he did commentary there for the viewers. It must have been such a pleasure to watch him in action. Nodirbek, of course, was ecstatic with his victory. And here's a nice picture of all the players at the Ajax Stadium. There are 3 young talents on the left sitting there below. And by the way, a beautiful capture is this one. Chess can be so much fun and interesting. Look at that. And before I end this video, a small question. This is how intense it was. This 2 pictures. And before I end this, a question to you. Who are these 2 great individuals in the world of chess? Can you recognize them and let me know in the comment section? Not an easy question, but if you can do that, you have really good knowledge of the chess world. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.